Alright guys, we are going to be reacting to I moved to Russia and it's a total nightmare. Let's jump in and see what's going on. Make sure you guys subscribe.
I'm a British guy who moved here to Moscow, Russia, and so far it's been a total nightmare. In this video we're going to take a little walk here around Red Square and through Moscow, and I'll tell you all about it. Let's go. So we're here at this end of Red Square where St. Basil's is, and just to let you know before we set off, we're going to head around along past that illuminated building GUM, the old shopping centre, down towards the far end there of Red Square. So the first negative culture shock I had here in Russia was to do with the tax system. When I arrived, I realised that I was actually going to be paying 13% tax, which is quite a lot lower than what I was paying in the UK. And that sounds good at first, doesn't it? But what it meant was that actually my take-home pay was going to be £8,000 per year more here than compared to the UK on the same salary. Again, that sounds great, doesn't it? But then you start to think about it and you realise that that's £8,000 that's not going towards combating climate change, or £8,000 that's not going towards gender research studies, which is obviously quite problematic. And then of course that extra money starts to build up in your bank account, doesn't it? And as it builds up, you can start to invest and kind of get ahead financially, which for me as a British person is quite difficult. It causes me a lot of angst and worry to have this sense that I might actually, be getting somewhere in life. And when you start to have this extra disposable income coming in, you really begin to realise how much better it is to have the government spending your money and to have you spending it yourself, because you start to spend your money on really frivolous things like holidays and enjoying yourself and stuff like that. I remember I bought a holiday to Thailand and I was sitting beside the pool in this 4-star hotel, and I was thinking to myself, this just isn't right. It would be so much better if the government had had that money and it was able to spend it on somebody else getting a 4-star hotel, not instead of me with my own money, preferably somebody who's never paid any tax in the UK. Right, as we come down here, we're going to get nice and warm in the metro, and I'm going to get on to my next complaint.
Beautiful stairway,
well,
man.
Here we are at
beautiful stairway.
Metro station, and I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, wow, this looks really nice. What's this guy going to complain about here? Well, let me tell you. So the metro system here looks great on paper, but there's one major problem, and that is that during rush hour, the trains come every 90 seconds, which sounds great, doesn't it? But there's a big problem, which is that doesn't leave me enough time to update my pronouns on my LinkedIn profile, which I try to do 4 to 5 times per week, as I'm sure you do too. Also in the UK, when I've got 25-30 minutes between trains, what I like to do is go on Twitter and Facebook and see if I can find a case where somebody's accidentally misgendered someone, and then I try and get that
the
person
UK's, bro,
fired.
I'm telling you, he's being facetious, but the UK is bad. The UK is bad, man. They're bringing all these third world immigrants over there, man. Ooh, man, they're changing their demographics quick. In the United States, at least we're deporting people, but over there, they're not deporting anybody.
In their life, just doing my bit to make the world a better place. But unfortunately here, that's just not possible. So that's definitely a huge drawback of living here in Moscow. Right, we're going to hop on a train and go one stop.
That's crazy, man.
Novokuznetskaya. Novokuznetskaya, probably my favorite station.
Beautiful station.
For sentimental reasons, it was my first neighborhood that I lived in. And it's one of the best stations, I would say. But we're not going to stay here for long. Here we are at Novokuznetskaya. It's chilly. This is Pyatnitskaya Street, which is a popular nightlife spot. Which brings me on to another thing that's different, that I miss from the UK, which is that sense of alertness that you always need to have when you're on a night out on a street like this, that everything could just kick off.
Wow.
Let's get warm again.
Very clean, by the way.
Minus 15, I think, something like that.
Damn, that's
We're
cool.
going into Tretyakhovskaya Metro. While we're making our way into Tretyakhovskaya Metro, let's talk about healthcare, because it's very different here compared to the UK where I came from. And I have to say, I much prefer the UK method to here. Here, if I've got a problem, I phone up the doctor and I get an appointment the same day or the next day. Whereas in the UK, you get to take part in this amazing fun game where you have to phone up the GP's, the doctor's reception at 8 a.m. along with everybody else who wants an appointment in your local area.
Yeah, he's being facetious. He's, in other words, he likes the Russian system.
And you have to hope you get through. If you're lucky enough to get through, then you have to convince the receptionist who has no medical training that your problem is worthy of seeing the doctor. And then if you're lucky
this is the problem with national healthcare system right here. That's the problem, guys. I mean, that's the problem. They have the same problem in Australia. They have the same problem in Canada. They even have the same problem in Germany. The protocol and the bureaucracy that some of these countries have for you to just simply see a doctor is insane. The United States, we don't have the best healthcare. However, you can go to the doctor right now and get service.
To convince them, you get booked in to see the doctor in a week or so. If you're not lucky enough to get through or convince the doctor's receptionist, you have to try again the next day. And that's just a great opportunity to have fun, isn't it? Whereas this Russian system is just so simple and boring. You have a problem, you phone up, you get seen the same day. Where's the fun in that? So we come onto the platform here at Tretyakhovskaya. Another comment would have to be how it's lacking character and characters. It's a bit sterile, it's a bit clean, isn't it?
Beautiful,
really,
man.
Ideally, you'd be looking for a few more characters, maybe a few more drunkards, a few more homeless people.
I just don't understand. The homeless thing is just something that I just really don't understand of a life of me. The UK has the same problem that we have. You go to these train stations and they have homeless everywhere. Somehow, our logic cannot kick in and say these people deserve zero sympathy for the fact that they're just making it worse for everybody else. But somehow they have better and more rights than you when you're even paying taxes towards the system. And these folks are not even paying taxes towards the system.
A stag party or two wouldn't go amiss just to bring this place alive a little bit. It's just a little bit too calm and sterile. So we're here at Tretyakhovskaya. We're going to go down to Kalurskaya.
It's insane, man.
What this carriage is really missing, I think, is some gangster rap music, preferably played from some 15-year-old boy's phone, just to really make everybody in here feel uneasy. At the moment, it's a little bit calm, it's a little bit pedestrian. I think, that little bit of gangster rap would just elevate the mood a little bit.
Make it better, right?
We've arrived at Kalurskaya Metro. We're going to head over to Vorontsovskaya, and again, you'll agree with me, just a distinct lack of character and characters. As we go down to Vorontsovskaya, it brings me on to another of my complaints.
I love this. I love this.
And there's a clue in how shiny this escalator is. So you can see this is a shiny new station, part of the big circle line, which was completed, I think, in 2023. And my complaint here is that they're building too many new metro stations. I think they built hundreds in the last few years.
Wow. Yo, and that's Russia with sanctions. And that's Russia with sanctions. Imagine if they didn't have any sanctions.
It's all well and good, that sounds great, but it's just hard to keep up.
It's hard.
It's easy to get lost now. And we should really take a lesson from the UK, in my opinion.
Crazy, man.
Take the Glasgow subway system, for example, in Scotland. I think they've got 15 stations that they've had since 1896. And since 1896, they've opened 0 new stations.
Wow.
That is how you do it. That's consistency. That's stability. Nobody's going to get confused. You know where you stand with the Glasgow subway system.
Wow.
None of this, you know, opening dozens of new stations every year. That's not how to do it.
Of course, he's being facetious, right? Like,
okay, I've got 4 or 5 more complaints to share with you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop on to the metro and stop at a station each time and give you a quick fire complaint. So you'll see 4 or 5 more stations, 4 or 5 more complaints. Let's go, here comes the train now.
and reminder that everybody's still dressing very nice.
Here we are at Novatorskaya. Very nice station it is too. We're here at Novatorskaya Metro, and here's my complaint. The cost of utilities is too cheap here, and the government controls the heating in my apartment, and the heating is turned up too high, so I have to open my windows to keep the apartment cool even when it's minus 20 degrees outside, which deprives me of the fun that we used to have in the UK of wrapping up warm and putting on extra layers and putting your coat on inside, because the heating costs were too extortionate to have the heating on all the time. That was such great fun, but here in Moscow that's not needed, unfortunately.
I can smell the silence. I can smell the silence.
Предметов сообщайте машинисту. Поезд следует до станции Каховская.
We're going to hop over onto the red line here at Prospect Verdanskova, and I'll tell you my next gripe, which is to do with food. And here's my complaint. Russia has a complete ban on all GMO food products, so like genetically modified foodstuffs, which I think is a bit of a shame, because I quite like the idea of, you know, pumping my body full of genetically modified chemicals.
That's crazy, right?
And then just kind of waiting to see what happens in a few years.
And mind you, they still, a lot of them, they still, what? They still have a very strong culture towards what? Growing your own food. That is something that we have lost in the West. Now all the countries, they're still doing it in Germany, they're still doing it in Austria. Even here in the United States, they're still doing it. But not at the same level as Russians, by the way.
I mean, I think that's quite a fun little experiment to play on ourselves. So it's a bit of a pity that Russia's kind of put a stop to that, in my opinion. Here at Universitet Metro, I have another complaint, and it's about women. In fact, it's a warning about women. If you're a man from the UK or the US and you come here, you're going to have to deal with a lot of, you know, women who are interested in dating you. And obviously
Interesting, really?
that's pretty inconvenient, pretty annoying. Just to add on to all the other list of all these things that I've been sharing with you.
Осторожно, двери закрываются.
Right, here we are, a deserted Vorobyove Gory.
Wow.
So at a very quiet Vorobyove Gory metro station, I will wrap up my list of complaints about life in Russia.
Nice
as a
job. He
foreigner.
did a very good job.
Our tax contributions are too low, the cost of living is too low, it's too safe, healthcare is too readily available, women keep pestering me to go out on dates with me. It's not for me. Of course, if you haven't realised already, this is all a joke, it's satire, it's sarcasm, it's just a bit of a laugh.
But I think it makes sense since, again, it makes sense since there's not the portion of women versus men in Russia makes sense. There's more women than men. So actually men
Don't mean to
becomes
offend anybody or anything like that.
you know, a
It's just a
value.
laugh. It's just a joke.
Valuable
bro. It's just a
assets.
joke. Okay, I'm now out of the metro, as you can see, and walking home, and I wanted to record this little clip because I realized when I wrapped up the video in the metro, I didn't say something very important, which is that I'm not intending to slag off the UK or Scotland in this video. This video is a response to other videos that take a very extreme view on Russia and make out that Russia is some sort of terrible place. So in this satirical video, I was flipping it and satirizing the UK and, you know, holding a mirror up to some of its faults, which of course it has, as every country has faults. But I do love the UK. I think it's a great country with a lot going for it. Amazing.
No. You cannot hold the heat. That's what's going on, bro. You cannot hold the heat, my guy. That's why you're saying this. No, man, it has to be one or the other. You cannot be just dancing with God and the devil at the same time. I think the criticisms that you provided were completely valid. Completely valid. Although I understand why you want to make this statement at the end of the video. However, just stay to your guns. Like, some of these criticisms are very valid, and you should not be apologizing for just making this comparison. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm out.